It's the holiday season and things are getting busy. You might be looking for some nutritious, flavorful meals to fuel you on jam-packed days when you've got too many things to do. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service, can help you eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos. Cross meal prepping off your list this holiday season with Factor. Skip the meal planning, grocery shopping, chopping, prepping, and cleaning up, and get Factor's fresh, never frozen meals delivered straight to your door. They're ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. My wife and I have tried Factor meals, and they're probably the best ready-to-eat meals we've ever tried. They're really easy to use. Just take them out of the refrigerator, heat them up in the microwave, and peel off the top, and you're ready to go. Treat yourself to high-quality, delicious meals over the holidays. Choose from over 35 chef-crafted meals every week that support a healthy lifestyle and meet your meal preferences, whether it's calorie smart, vegan and veggie, protein plus, and more wholesome options. Looking for calorie-conscious options over the holidays when everybody's trying to load you up with lots of treats that don't skimp on flavor? Try delicious dietitian-approved calorie-smart meals with around less than 550 calories per serving. Or if you need an extra boost to support your wellness goals and help you feel your best during the holidays, try Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving. Factor isn't just for dinner. Count on extra convenience any time of day with an assortment of more than 55 add-ons to suit various preferences and tastes. Choose from quick breakfast items, lunch-to-go, grab-and-go snacks, and ready-to-drink cold-pressed juices, shakes, and smoothies. With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. We offset 100% of our delivery emissions and source 100% renewable electricity for production sites and offices. This December, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes. No prep, no mess. Head to factormeals.com/wheelbearings50 and use code wheelbearings50. That's wheelbearings50 to get 50% off. That's code wheelbearings50 at factormeals.com/wheelbearings50 to get 50% off. Coming up on episode 331 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Alfa Romeo Stelvio, the Volvo XC60, Daihatsu forges crash test results, the Volvo ES90 coming soon, Max Verstappen, too young to rent a car, Vinfast gets a U.S. regular dealer, California AVs can't get tickets, the last V8 Dodge Challenger, and the VW ID GTI is coming, but maybe not to America. All that and more coming up next. This is episode 331 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abul-Salmon from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from the Road Reflector podcast.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from SAE International.
And this is the last day of 2023 as we record this.
It's New Year's Eve morning.
It is December 31st. And next time we talk to you, it'll be a different year, a different arbitrary time on the calendar.
Yes.
Yay.
So we can do the see you next year at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
This time keeps on slipping.
Into the future.
Yeah. What a goofy band that was.
And have you noticed as you get older that it seems to slip faster and faster every year?
Yes, it does slip a lot faster because you have so much more in your brain. When you're a little kid, like every moment is like the first time you've done everything.
Yeah.
And now it's so like your summer vacations seem forever because it's only like the third summer you've ever had or the seventh summer you've ever had.
It did seem really long as a kid.
Now when you're, in your 40s, it's like this is the 40th summer, so it's like,
July again, whatever.
whatever. Oh, now it's September already. Well, I don't know what happened with August. It was there. I'm sure it was. People talked about it.
Yeah, I heard there was an August.
Apparently it happened. It slipped right by me.
Yeah, your brain is, yeah.
Well, anyway.
Death, man.
Anyway.
Enough talk about getting old.
Mortality.
Yeah. We're all going to get there eventually.
In theory.
No, everyone thinks they're going to be the one that lives forever.
Yeah. No. I don't even want to live forever.
How about if you could live for like 500 years?
No.
But
well,
they don't wait, hold on.
In 500 years?
You can live 500 years. Oh no, you're not going to be 500 years old. You're going to be like
I don't want to be like the old knight in Indiana Jones who's just like this 500-year-old creepy guy. I want to be like.
No, you're not going to be like a 500-year-old person. You're going to be like, let's say 40 for 500 years, and it's 500 years in a row, or you can live 300 years, but you could take 100-year breaks, 200-year breaks. So you live 500, but you're only awake for
500 in a stretch. I just want to
live for 100,
watch time change.
You live for 100, pause for 100, live for another 100, pause for another 100.
Yeah, you get like a nice little nap.
No, but then you come back and you'd be like, whoa, and I don't understand anything. You'd be like the old person who can't use their
You'd be Encino, man.
Yeah. But then we might not have anything to drive in 500 years.
What if you wake up in 500 years and there's nothing? Or
that's true. It's like a Twilight Zone episode.
I should have taken that extra 100 years.
Yeah, you could have stopped. Maybe you could have stopped something.
It'd be like the one with was it Burgess Meredith. And
with the glasses.
Yeah.
Oh,
and he loves to read.
I just feel like Burgess could have gone and found some other glasses somewhere else.
You would think there would be some around that,
I mean, they didn't have lens crafters back then, but they had something.
Yeah.
He could have found a magnifying glass or something.
Anyway.
Classic Twilight Zone, everybody.
Okay, Nicole, what have you been driving?
The same car I was driving last week. I have the Honda Accord Hybrid I've just discovered for 3 weeks now total. I have it. So I'm like, well, that's a loan and a half. So I don't have a new press car, but I can talk about the car that I had. I paid to rent while I was in Europe. I rented a Volvo XC60, which was what I tooled around with for about a week or so while I was in Europe. Packed it full of luggage for us to be there for 3 weeks. And I drove it for about a week because part of the time we were on a boat and part of the time we were just in cities, but I had it for the first week. And I arrived, and when I landed, it was snowing like nobody's business in Zurich. I mean, like crazy snow, like things have shut down. The world is coming to an end. And it takes a lot to do that there. Like it wasn't like it was a flurry. It was snowing, and we had an hour and 45-minute drive to where we were going that first day. And when we planned that, we were landing much earlier because there wasn't a snowstorm, and then there was a snowstorm and everything got delayed, and we landed very much later. So I immediately had to hop into this little Volvo XC60 rental car in the dark, jet lagged, and drive into even more mountainy areas of Switzerland. And you know what? It was freaking amazing. Like it was.
Switzerland is so beautiful.
It was beautiful, but I mean the drive, like the roads are covered with snow, like it's snowy. I gotta give them credit, man. The people are like, okay, we should all slow down slightly and give ourselves space. I'm like, this is the most brilliant winter driving I've ever done.
What are they thinking?
In my entire life, no one's going by at 95 miles an hour. They're all like, oh, you've all slowed down appropriately.
And a pickup truck with like no weight in the back. You're like, oh my God, that person's
and summer tires.
And summer tires.
Or bald summer tires.
They were also, it was the most organized winter driving I've ever witnessed. I'm like, I didn't just land in Zurich. Apparently, I've landed in an alternate like universe where when it snows, everyone just slows down and
everyone does the correct thing.
They actually do what they told you to do in driver's ed when you were 16. So it was like one of the easy stories, but the roads were crummy. Like there were plows in front of us a couple times, and it's still, you've got that like hard, it's almost like it's wet enough that it's become that sort of packed ice that's stuck to the road until you actually get some sun to melt through it a little bit. So it was genuinely really snowy and crummy. And I thought, it's kind of a good test of a car. Like we've all done snow driving adventures for various automakers here, there, and everywhere.
Or just daily life for you
daily
and I.
life. But when you do, generally, you're like, if you're driving in your own car, you know your own car. If you had a press car sit in your driveway for a day or two, you had a little time to get used to it. But to get thrown into a car that you don't even, like, it's literally nighttime, you don't know what's going on, or anything is.
Yeah, well, you have a little jet lag.
You get the jet lag. And you're like, oh gosh, here we go. And to have it be absolutely not stressful, seamless, handled beautifully, thought, this is a fabulous little car in the snow. So that's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is actually really good. Like, and it's not like we were talking about this before the show. It's not like the world's most exciting vehicle. Like, I don't like, we're going to talk later about Max Verstappen. I don't think he'd be super thrilled with this. It's not a Max Verstappen worthy.
But if he was driving into the mountains in Switzerland in the wintertime, he might well.
Yeah,
he
he'd be
might
like, "This is
say it
fine."
was the right car, right? But it was solid. Like, I thought, God, this is a great car. And it was also just right. So when we got there, you get to the rental thing and you don't know exactly, like we're getting a comparable to whatever, a mid-size SUV, whatever. You don't know exactly what's going to arrive for you when you get there. And they said, "Oh, we can upgrade you." And I was like, "I don't know, I feel like I'm pretty okay with this Volvo." And they said it was just a larger one. It was what's that one up?
XC90.
90. Thank you. They offered us an XC90, to which my husband's eyes were like, "Ooh, we'll get a fancier one." I'm like, "No, we'll get a bigger one. And this is Europe. No, thank you." Like,
You don't need a bigger,
right? Because bigger, depending on where you're driving, is a nightmare. And I think, no, it feels like the just right size. It's not too small, so that it won't fit all of our luggage comfortably in the back. And you got something wedged in the back seat. It's not too big, so you're actually wedging the vehicle into a street. It's the just right size. It has enough room for your stuff. It's comfortable. It still feels roomy. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was just the two of you, right? You didn't have your girls with you, right?
No, it was just me and my husband. But we were, like I said, we were there for 3 weeks, and Russ had to do a little bit of, in the very beginning, there was some work stuff he had to do. So in terms of packing, he packed very heavy because he had his on vacation and cold, snowy climes, and I also have to go to the office. So he had to have stuff that he would not normally bring on a vacation, like nice dress shoes and so he had more luggage than normal for what we would carry. So we had a lot of stuff. So it fit, right? It fit. Everything fit in the back. Like, we've had smaller cars in Europe sometimes, and if you have a big piece of luggage, really, they won't fit into a slightly smaller crossover sometimes. Like, if you have two large suitcases, this had the two big suitcases and two carry-on suitcases and like a backpack and a tote bag wedged in the back. And the little cover thing still covered them.
That's nice.
And I was like, this is absolutely perfect. So it's kind of fun. Like, I thought, I don't often rent a car. Normally we're getting a car, even if I'm going someplace in the US, I'm normally having somebody supply a car and I drive it around wherever I am for the few days to experience that car and something different. So I never, it's not often that I actually rent a car. And I thought, gosh, this is a rental car and I actually like it. Also, these heated seats in that sucker, they got warm in like 2.3 seconds. Most brilliant heated seats.
I mean, this is a car that was designed in Sweden where, having good seat heaters is important.
Right? So I was like, this is brilliant. So it was wonderful. It was a really nice car to drive. I enjoyed it. I thought it was just going to be like, I had in my head like, ugh, when am I going to drive for a few days? But it was really fun. It was perfect for the snow, and it was easy to drive around those little narrow streets. And we had a couple of sort of twisty turny roads that we took on some of our adventuring. We tried to find a castle. Okay, so here's the thing. So the castle looks like it's there, right? Like, we're on a highway.
Were you trying to find a specific castle, or just driving around to see if there was a castle somewhere?
Well, if you see a castle, we were like, that
a lot of castles in Austria. You got to go out to Austria.
So we saw this castle and we wanted to go. Like, it looked really cool from the side of the road and had flags. So obviously it's like a castle you can visit. Like, it doesn't look like it's a castle in disrepair. Like, it looks like some, right? And then we see signs, visit the whatever castle. We're like, let's go visit the whatever castle. So we get off the highway and it's this giant castle, you guys. It's a castle. It is huge. You can see it halfway down. You're like, in the distance, castle. It's gigantic. We get off the highway, we turn right. We're falling for the castle. It's like, castle this way. All of a sudden, we cannot find our way to the actual castle. I swear we drove around this little tiny town for like 20 minutes. Like, we have taken every road and a few that we weren't supposed to because we're in a junkyard now. So we need to get back on the road. And we have yet to. We never made it to the castle. We have pictures looking.
That's to keep the marauders from it. That's a pretty good.
It was a well-designed castle because we weren't even trying to maraud, and we could not find our way. Yeah, but we did find a really great bakery that had that bread. We were talking about pastry too that you have in Europe that has that really dark bread that like weighs. It feels like a brick. It's super heavy and it's cut in pieces that are like a centimeter thick, like really really thin because it's such a heavy dark bread. And it was warm. I did not cut it. I just ripped off hunks of it and ate it in the car the rest of the way. So castle failure, driving the twisty roads, fabulous, and I got a big loaf of bread.
You got a nice loaf of bread that you just.
I got a nice loaf of random bread warm from a bakery at the base of the castle. No one can get to.
Out of curiosity, did the rental agency have snow tires on the Volvo, or?
You know what was funny? I didn't even think to check again with the jet lag. I sort of assumed there were probably snow tires. I'm betting there must have been, but they did have the socks that we talked about.
Oh, in the car?
They weren't in the car. I'm thinking they were add-ons because it was like they were in like little bags, like look like you bought them at the store kind of bags. They were like sort of stacked up behind the rental counter. Like there were like 5 or 6 pack, like they were behind
So
there.
for an extra $5 a day, you can rent these,
right?
For
so
€5 a day,
right? So I'm sure there was some deal that you could. And
Swiss
I remember looking at
francs.
them, and I'm like, oh, do we need that? I'm like, well, we're not like really scaling a mountain. I'm highway
you're
driving.
fine.
I feel like I'm good. So we didn't get it, but yeah, they were set out there the way you'd see like. You pay an extra, you get a GPS for extra, and you used to in the old days, or you pay extra to have a car seat in your car, or whatever add-ons. So yeah, I think it was an extra if you wanted to purchase it, which was well timed because, like I said, it was snowing to beat the band when I landed. So
Nice.
yeah, so it was fun. I enjoyed my little rental Volvo XC60. It's a fun little car. Highly recommend.
all right. And this one was there was one thing that was different about this one, right? Compared to the ones that they sell here in the U.S.
Oh yes. Also, it was a diesel.
Yeah.
Which you can't even get. We have the gas and the PHEV, I think, in the US is all we have, but it was a diesel. So which we don't do that here. So it was a little diesel car, and we paid roughly, I think when I converted, about $850,000 a gallon for diesel fuel when we were in Europe. It was expensive, but also it was one of those like, this was funny at the rental agency because clearly we're American. We hand over our passports and everything, and we are the Americans renting the diesel car. I think she must have said to us 10 times, "This is a diesel." Like, okay, this is a diesel. I'm like, I got you. She's like, and also I'm like, I get it. It's diesel. I won't put regular petrol into the car. I will put diesel fuel into the car. So I can't even imagine how many, because she said it repeatedly, like pointed to it on the form, reminded us, confirmed with us. Truly must have said it at least a half a dozen times during the rental process.
I'm sure there's been an American or two that have called the agency, from they're out somewhere stuck. Car died because we put gasoline in his car. We told you it's a diesel.
It's a diesel, right? So I felt her pain, but I was like, wow, we must be really bad about doing that because there were a lot of reminders.
I was renting a car in Germany, and I specifically asked for a manual transmission.
Yeah.
And they were really trying to give me an automatic. I'm like, no, I want a manual transmission. Like, are you sure?
Were they worried you would destroy it? Were they?
They're like, Americans don't know how to drive manual transmission.
Do you know what to do with that third pedal?
Yeah, it was very much.
There's 3 pedals. Oh gosh.
We don't have a very good. Our rep in the rest of the world. We can only drive gas-powered automatic cars, according to people in Europe, because we've destroyed. Apparently, we've destroyed enough.
They don't trust us anymore.
Manual transmissions. Yeah.
Yeah, the rental agencies. Oh God, it's an American. Do we have a gas-powered car with an automatic transmission, please?
No. I almost got a job based out of Zurich once.
Did you? What kind of job?
I'm not allowed to say.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, but I would have worked there like 3 months a year, and that would have. Oh, it's nice, but man, cool. Switzerland's crazy expensive.
Oh, it was very expensive. It was,
and they use Swiss francs instead of euros.
They're not part of the European Union.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not part of the EU.
They're like England.
They're so little animal.
They've always been. Yeah.
We got stuck in a parking garage many years ago in Switzerland because we knew it wasn't part of the EU, but didn't think about him not being a part of the EU.
Oh no!
Which meant that we had our credit card in euros in our hand, and the machine would not take credit cards. The credit card reader on the parking garage machine was broken, so you had to put in Swiss francs. We had not a franc to us, and the place we had happened to walk in, and like the country had shut down the moment that we decided to drive over the border there. And literally, we had some woman that took pity on us. She came out, and we're like, "Look, could we possibly just give you euros for some francs? Like, we'll trade you." And I have no idea what she's like, well, sure. How much? Like, and we'd been there for all of an hour. It was even like a cheap parking rate. We're like,
which was probably like 25 Swiss francs, which is 25 bucks.
We had like the handful of euros. We're like, take whatever you think is a fair exchange. We're just like holding it in our hands. Like, it's too much. We're like, we don't care. You're getting us out of the parking garage. Just put some francs in the machine.
You're saving our lives.
Yeah. So yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be trapped here for the next 48 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. We will never get out of this parking garage.
All right. And you still didn't have anything to drive this week, right?
I'm
Robbie?
driving the BMW X7 right now. I just got
Oh,
it
okay.
on Friday, so I will have something for
Ooh.
next week. I've loaded up, except for when I'm gone for CES. Boo! I've loaded up on vehicles. So
Okay.
until like May. No, until March.
Wow.
Excellent.
So I think the last one I'll have is beginning of March.
Okay. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. Alrighty. Well, I followed up last week's Tonale with another Alfa Romeo utility vehicle. This time, the Stelvio Veloce.
I literally looked at that and I'm like, did he put the wrong car? And I'm like, oh wait, no, that's Stelvio this time.
Yeah. So this is one size class up from the Tonale, and it's roughly about the same size as that XC60, similar size to the XC60, and it's built on the same platform as the wonderful Giulia. Previously, I've driven the Stelvio before in quadrifolio form, which was interesting because when I had to drive down to near Columbus for an event at Honda R&D, and that time I was the Stelvio quadrifolio is not particularly fuel efficient, because it's got 500 horsepower and an absolutely amazing twin turbo V6. But as I was driving through central Ohio, I needed to get some gas, and there's nothing but like small towns in this area, and obviously, with a high output twin turbo V6, it's going to be designed to run on premium fuel. And so that time, I stopped at like 3 different gas stations. None of them had anything but regular. There wasn't a gas station in central Ohio that had premium gas.
What's going on in Ohio?
Kind of bonkers. So I ended up putting basically just enough regular gas in there to get me to Columbus, and then filled it up with premium when I got there.
Did you get some? Did you get some of that octane booster? Throw it in there, give it a little extra.
Right.
No, I didn't. I figured they probably wouldn't have any of that either. But this time I just had the standard engine in the Stelvio, which is the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder. It's Stellantis's. It was originally designed under Fiat Chrysler, but it's the Stellantis global medium architecture. I think it's a similar architecture. It shares a lot with the new Hurricane inline 6, same bore spacing, cylinder sizes, and everything. So it's based on that. And this engine is in all kinds of Stellantis Jeeps and Dodge and other vehicles now. In total, let's see, it puts out 280 horsepower in the Stelvio, and 306 foot-pounds of torque. So like most modern turbocharged 4-cylinder engines, it's got lots of low-end torque, good power. It's a very responsive engine, and it's actually quite fun to drive. It's no quadrifolio, but you can have a good time with this thing in the Stelvio. And the Stelvio only comes with all-wheel drive. There's no rear-wheel drive version of the Stelvio. So unlike the Giulia, if you want rear-wheel drive, you have to get the Giulia sedan, which, frankly, myself, I would probably go for that anyway.
Yeah.
But, you get a little bit of extra ground clearance with the Stelvio. It's a little more practical in terms of cargo space and everything, because you have the option to fold down the seat, and you've got hatchback, and so you can put, if you need to put some bigger stuff in there, you got lots of room in there for everything. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, there is sorry, I was mistaken. There is a rear-wheel drive version of the Stelvio. The base Stelvio is available with rear drive. Yeah. I don't think that was always the case. I think it used to be just all-wheel drive only, but you can get it with rear-wheel drive. But the one I had was all-wheel drive. The Stelvio, being a size class up, and kind of a performance class up from the Tenali, starts at about $46,000 in the U.S. for the Sprint. The one that I had, the Veloce, is like the third step up the ladder. There's also the Competizione, so it's $53,000, and then the Quadrifolios are, they start at $88,000, so they're a lot more expensive. But I've always really liked driving these modern Alphas, both the Giulia and the Stelvio. They have very similar driving characteristics. They're surprisingly tossable for what is an SUV. There's good good amount of room in there. It feels quite premium inside. It still has the older infotainment system, so it doesn't have the latest Stellantis Uconnect 5 system in there, because the Stelvio has been around since I think 2017 or 18, and it launched with an older infotainment system in there, and it's reaching the end of its current life cycle. It's eventually, in the next couple of years, going to be replaced by an EV. But the infotainment system works fine. It's not as good as the Uconnect 5, but it works well enough. Like the Tenali and the Giulia, the Stelvios also have that stop start button on the steering wheel in the lower left hand quadrant.
Looks cool.
Which is it's takes a little getting used to when you're used to reaching around with your right hand on the dashboard somewhere to start the car. Remembering to use your left hand on the steering wheel. But
I feel like, though, Sam, it's not as bad as cars that actually still have a key.
That's true.
I get in the car and I toss the key fob into the cup holder. I'm like, I need that.
Yeah, I mean, like the Ford Maverick, for example.
It's exactly. Oh, I gotta go to put the key in the ignition. This is weird.
Yeah. But or even leaving it in your pocket or purse. Not even bothering to take it out. Yeah, I can't imagine. Like my wife. Her car keys have been in her purse, for 6 years now.
Buried in the bottom with the bag.
The only time she takes them out, is if she's changing purses. She gets a new purse. Other than that, it never comes out of her purse.
Right.
And then we've got the spare that's hanging inside the house here. If one of us needs to go out and get in the garage to get something, but so I like the Stelvio. I like the size of it. And this past summer or in June, I think, June, when I was out in LA for something for a couple of days, and I had the Maserati Grecale. The Grecale is based on this same platform as well. It's actually slightly longer than the Stelvio. It's a slightly longer wheelbase, slightly longer body, but it's similar. But the Stelvio, the Grecale feel, at least in the it wasn't, I didn't have the Trofeo. It was, I forget what the exact trim level was, but it was the mid-level trim that I had on the Grecale, and that one feels a little more luxury oriented. It's a little bit softer. There's a little more body roll when you're going around corners. The Stelvio, Alfa Romeos in general are meant to be have the Italian luxury, but really to have a more sporty feel to them. And the Stelvio definitely lives up to that. It feels sportier, and it was a lot of fun to drive. I over the course of a week, I averaged 22 miles per gallon with it. It's rated at 24 combined, 22 city, 28 highway, 24 combined. I got a little bit less than that, but I was also taking advantage of the fact that it's kind of fun to drive.
That's what happens when you have the fun cars, is you kind of blow the whole EPA.
Exactly.
Fuel mileage, you're like, oh well, whoopsie.
Yeah. Whatever.
Mule schmule.
I had, and I think I said this before, our former esteemed co-host Rebecca Lindland has a Stelvio, and I drove that across the U.S. with her when she relocated from Connecticut to California. And she needed someone to drive with her, and I drove with her and her cat Lucy. And
kitty cat.
And you know what? That was a long drive, and A, yes, it held up the whole time. It never broke down. And B, really enjoyable drive. I mean, that's a lot of hours behind the wheel and a lot of hours just sitting in the passenger seat. Really loved it. I don't remember what trim she has. She does not have the fancy pantsist version of it. But
I think she had the TI.
I feel like it was the TI, but really enjoy driving like a comfortable car, fun to drive, handled well.
The seats are really good.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of miles to be sitting in those seats, and like you had the certain amount of like I would just like to get out and walk for a few minutes, but it was never oh these seats are wearing on me, and that was a lot of hours in that car, and I came away thinking I really enjoyed this, truly enjoyed driving it, and super comfy, and it was fun.
Yeah, and the one I had was in the Misano blue metallic paint, which is a fantastic color. Again, love the bold colors. And good choice on this one. It had all of the usual ADAS features, adaptive cruise control, lane departure assistance, things like that. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. One thing before I got it, last week when I was talking about the Tenali, I mentioned the issue I was having with the wireless charger.
Did you get anything back on that?
I haven't heard anything back, but I mean they've been on vacation for the holidays, so I'll check back with them next week. But the that one had the Tenali had the Uconnect 5 system in there, so it was a different system in there, and I was expecting because it's been a while since I drove the Stelvio. I was expecting that it would have Uconnect 5 in there, but it didn't. So when I used the wireless charger in the Stelvio, had no issues at all with it. It would start charging. It was fine. No repeated notifications coming up on the screen that it was charging. So that part worked without any issue. Harman Kardon 14 speaker audio system in here. All in price $58,455. Any guesses on the delivery charge?
$14.95.
Oh, $14.90. Oh, wait. $1. I forgot how. For a second, I forgot how Price of Right works. $1. That's
Nicole
wins this one. It was $15.95.
It's a New Year's miracle. How much was it?
$15.95.
I was off by $100. Okay.
Yeah. So you're pretty close. And for a current generation Stellantis vehicle, that's actually a pretty reasonable delivery charge.
That's exactly what
Stellantis has been on the leading edge of creeping up those delivery charges, to $2,000 and above.
Yeah, that was my thought. I'm like, Stellantis, go high. So he screwed down a number.
Oh my gosh!
But like all Alfa Romeos, the Stelvio is built in Italy, so it is a true Italian car, even though it's got a lot of engineering from other parts of the world as well. But no, I really enjoyed this, so, if you're looking for, a mid-size 2-row crossover with, more style than what you would typically find in this segment, and definitely, a sporting character, the Stelvio is definitely a good place to look.
And I think I think it's just neat. It's nice to have a car that not everybody has sometimes, something that's a little bit different. And you don't see a lot of Alfa Romeos here anyway. And they're not like this giant high volume. They're not a Ford, they're not a Chevy. You're just not going to see them on every street corner. So
or even a BMW or Mercedes.
Right. Even like very high end cars, they just don't have that kind of volume. Some people don't like that. I think it's neat. Like I really want an Alfa because it's just one time when I have a car that people, when I have them as loaners, nobody knows what the heck they are. They're always like, what is that? Because that little triangle grille on the front, the shield, do they call it?
Yeah. Most people are not familiar with that design anymore. It's not like in the old days, when we had the old Alfa Spiders.
Right.
Yeah.
So nobody knows what it is. And it's kind of fun for people to look at your car and say, you find enthusiasts that way too. They're like, oh my gosh, you're driving an Alfa, because they're the only people who know what that is. So I have a little warm spot in my heart for the brand. I just think it's kind of fun and kind of neat.
Yeah. No, definitely. All right, let's move on to some of the stuff that happened this week. It was a relatively slow week, being the holidays, but there was some news that came out. So who remembers the brand Daihatsu? Do you remember when they sold Daihatsus in the U.S. for a few years?
I remember the name, but I don't remember Daihatsus sold here. How bad is that?
I remember Daihatsu. I think maybe someone bought a Daihatsu that I know.
They sold them here from about I think about 87 or 88 until about 1992 or 93. So only about 5 years or so.
Okay.
They had a really cool looking wagon.
Is
they
that
had
what's
the
in this?
thing.
No, that what's in this. I don't know what's in this old picture.
The one I remember was the Charade. I don't
Yeah, they had
remember the wagon.
They had a wagon version. I saw one. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm glad I didn't buy it.
Yeah. Daihatsu these days, I think since like the late 90s even, has been owned by Toyota. They still operate, as a separate brand, but it's owned by Toyota. And they actually make, in addition to Daihatsu branded cars, they make a lot of the small cars that are sold by Toyota as well as Mazda in Japan. So a lot of the K cars that are branded as Mazdas or Toyotas in Japan are actually built by Daihatsu. And that poses a little bit of a problem because it turns out we found out this week that for about the past 30 years or so,
30 years, everyone.
God,
Yeah.
30. That's a lot of years.
Daihatsu has been forging crash test results for their cars. And that would apparently includes the cars that were briefly sold here in North America.
Am I reading this right as I read down this, Sam, looking at this story that you linked here, that this also affects not just Daihatsu brands, but also models that were technically Mazda, Subaru, and Toyota. So regular brands, U.S. brands, stuff we still have.
Brands that we would recognize here in the U.S. that are sold here in the U.S. Yeah, because as I said, Daihatsu built a lot of the K cars that are sold under those brands. So a lot of the Mazda and Subaru and Toyota K cars are rebadged, rebranded Daihatsu vehicles. So Daihatsu has shut down their factories through at least the end of January. And that's about 9,000 people in Japan. Plus they've also got plants in Indonesia and Malaysia. So this is not good. Aside from those couple of cars that were sold here, most of all the rest of these cars have never been available in the North American market. So it doesn't really affect U.S. customers, but the customers overseas, if you have one of these cars, they may not be as safe as you thought they were.
And it mentions and I guess it sounds like it's going to depend on the vehicle, but there's a quote in here from CNN where it says, the quote is, "The inside lining of the front seat door was improperly modified in some checks." So like your side impact collision test would be wrong. Not a scary one at all. That if you get mashed,
especially in a very small car. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Getting T-boned by a big car, you're not. I mean, whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's actually scary to think that is what, like, any of it. But that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a test that's the getting T-boned and surviving test.
Yeah.
I mean, auto nerds have been pulling key cars into the United States for years, like little vans and little trucks. And now it's become a bit more mainstream. So maybe when you're looking at those, maybe double check those Mazda, Subaru, and Toyota and Daihatsu key cars you're thinking about importing.
Yeah, right?
Maybe go with the Hondas and the...
Yeah, I mean, check to see who actually manufactured them. If they were manufactured by Daihatsu, you might want to stay away from those.
Yeah.
The Nissans should be fine. The Toyotas.
Nissans. Well, no, not the Toyotas.
No, Toyotas technically no.
Yeah, depends.
Nissan and Honda.
Yeah, you have to figure out who manufactured. Like some of them, like the Mazda, AutoZam AZ1, that little coupe. That one I think was actually built by Mazda. I don't think Daihatsu built that one, but there's others. There's a variety of them, and apparently the oldest cases they've found with forged crash test documents go back to 1989. But apparently the volume has increased since 2014, which is interesting because this is not the first time we've had something like this happen with a Japanese automaker. I don't know if you remember back around in the early 2000s, Mitsubishi had a scandal where
remember this.
It was
they
the
were also.
Mitsubishi wagon, the Diamante.
Oh.
That's what the one I was talking about, not the
Okay.
Daihatsu. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah,
I'm
false
half
alarm there.
asleep. I'm half asleep right now. I was up late last night.
So what
But
was Mitsubishi's scandal? I don't remember this.
it's similar to this. They were forging the crash test results that they submitted for these vehicles. For certification of these vehicles, and it didn't. Theirs didn't go on as long, but it really hurt Mitsubishi's reputation for a long time.
Yeah.
And they had to recall a whole bunch of vehicles. So I guess it's with some I guess basically what I'm saying is you can't trust anybody.
You can't
kinda funny
trust
when you-
anyone.
Because you do in your head, you think because these automakers, like, oh, it's Toyota, they're huge. It's Volkswagen, they're huge.
Yeah.
They're not going to
Huge.
be messing around. They're going to follow the rules. It's like
You would think that there would be somebody there that would be overseeing this, double checking
Right?
everything.
And yet,
If you
still these
think that
things
companies are
happen.
gonna, that's the thing. If you think companies are going to self-regulate, that's a fool's errand.
Yeah.
Look at the financials.
Well,
Like,
yeah, and I mean, look,
Literally
any big
any-
company,
any
they,
company,
they-
any industry you think is going to self-regulate, no, they're going to
I
try.
feel like I'd like to think that they would. I mean, they're all going to try and get away with whatever they can and squeak by. But I'd like to think they would at least try and adhere to the rules.
No, well, if they
No.
can save a few bucks on every car.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember if we talked about it last week or the week before, but Cummins, they just
Oh right. They
got
just had an issue
they were the
too.
latest ones to get fined.
That's right.
And Dieselgate, they paid a $1.6 billion fine.
Billion with a B, which is crazy.
Because they also, just like Volkswagen, cheated on diesel emissions. And
Yeah.
there have been others, Mercedes-Benz, BMW,
BMW.
and Stellantis have all paid fines in the last
crazy.
several years. They obviously did not get the attention, because at least in North America, they didn't have nearly as many diesels as Volkswagen did. But they all got busted, for doing exactly the same thing that Volkswagen did and cheating on diesel emissions. So
Yeah.
I can't trust anybody. Okay, next, going back to Volvo.
Dun, dun, dun.
Back to Volvo.
Yeah. So Volvo, apparently, their next EV, the next pair of EVs they've got coming to the market are the EX30 that we've talked about, which is their little one, and the EX90, which is the big one, which is eventually going to replace the XC90. But following on behind that is apparently going to be the ES90. So you might guess, by the S in there, that this is a sedan, and it's going to eventually replace the S90 sedan, which is their big sedan, and be electric. So this is going to presumably be based on the same SPA2 architecture as the EX90 and the Polestar 3, and apparently these are already in early pre-production in China at the Geely plant near Shanghai, as the ES90, and it should be arriving in showrooms by sometime in 2025, and presumably, since it's based on the same platform as the Polestar 3 and the EX90, which are both going to be built at Volvo's factory in South Carolina near Charleston, I would guess that the ES90, the current S90 is already built there. So the ES90 will probably be built there as well, probably by 2025, which means that depending on how it's priced, it could it could potentially be eligible for tax credits as well.
Cool. I like the Volvo sedans are so pretty.
Yeah,
They are pretty. Do you think
And
people
I'm-
are excited about a sedan?
I think. I
would
mean,
be.
people
You would be?
still buy Accords. People still buy. I mean, Hyundai's like, we're not getting out of the sedan market. Other people are leaving it. We don't need it. If they leave it, that means it's more for us. I think that was Hyundai's whole deal for staying in sedan. So I think there's still a market for it. I mean, it's clearly not as big as crossover market, but
It looks
if people are going to buy it and you can make money off of it, you might as well make it.
yeah. I would certainly hope that they that they offer the ES90 here, as an alternative to something like the BMW i7 or the Mercedes EQS.
I feel like it would. I honestly feel like it would do well. I mean, Volvo is a solid brand. People like it. It's nice.
I see a lot of i4s.
Vehicles. I feel like it could do well if they brought it over here.
Yeah, I see a lot of i4s around here.
Do you?
A lot of i4s, yeah. People really love that i4.
I would imagine, that there will be an S60, an ES60 as well. I suspect that the ES60 though will probably be built on the same platform as the Polestar 4, which is a different architecture because the current S60 and XC60 and V60 are all built on the same SPA2 or SPA original SPA architecture as the 90 series, but I'm guessing that the electric ones will probably be built on the SEA architecture from the Polestar 4, but we'll see.
Be nice if they could bring wagons back, but they tried that. No one bought them.
Yeah, they tried.
My cousin bought one. My cousin got one. He had a V60, and I'm very proud of him.
That was the one they sold. I'm just kidding.
My cousin bought one, and then my other cousin who works at the Mercedes dealer, he has a Honda Odyssey. So I have two. They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing when it comes to cars. Yeah, like I have kids. I bought a station wagon.
Yeah. I mean, while our kids were growing up, we had station wagons, had a couple of different VW station wagons, and they were perfect. It was great for hauling kids and stuff around.
Yeah.
And then Dieselgate happened and we sold back the last VW wagon that we had and haven't owned one since.
Womp,
womp. Wah. Bye-bye.
So speaking of rental cars, did you get carded when you check your age? You had to prove how old you are.
They just wanted to see my ID, but you know what? I'm at a point where they're not going to check my age. They just said passport, please, and I gave.
When you go to the store, they don't ask you, and you're buying a beer. No one's asking you for your ID.
They don't, but you know who they do ask for ID? I believe
some guy named Max. Max Verstappen.
That dude.
Some Dutch kid. Yeah.
Some Dutch kid. I don't know. Some Dutch kid wanted to rent this. We said no.
Turns out, he's only 20. He just turned 26 in September. And he tried to rent a Mercedes AMG GT from a Sixt outlet in Europe. Sixt SIXT is, I think they're either the biggest or the second biggest car rental company in Europe. Very, very common over there. Did you rent from Sixt or from Hertz or?
We have rented from Sixt in the past, but I think this is actually a Hertz rental, I believe, that we got.
Oh, okay. Well, Max went to a Sixt outlet and tried to rent an AMG GT, and they wouldn't let him rent the AMG.
I find this hilarious.
Apparently, the age threshold to rent the AMG is 30.
Max.
Can you imagine if your guy at the counter, you're like, you can't rent, and either you know who you're talking to, and you're like,
he was in
really
Portugal.
sorry.
It's not like he was here in the United States where people are like, I don't know who you are. He was in Europe.
Or someone who didn't know is still like I know tons of people nothing about F1 who would have no idea.
For those who are not Formula One fans and haven't watched Drive to Survive, Max Verstappen drives for the Red Bull Formula One team, and he this year
quick primer.
This year he won his third consecutive World Drivers' Championship in F1, and he won 19 out of 22 races. He won more races this year than anybody in a single season ever.
So he's probably qualified to drive this rental. You think maybe he could handle it?
I think he could probably handle the performance level of an AMG GT.
Okay.
It's not quite as quick as his usual daily driver. God. I think he could probably handle.
He could probably manage it.
Rules are rules.
Oh God.
Sorry, I mean, our rule says 30. You have to be 30 to rent this car, and if you're not, well, tough.
And the poor person.
We can give you this BMW 5 Series though.
Was probably like, can you imagine if though, and you have to be like, I'm really sorry, Mr. Verstappen, but I can't rent this because you're too young and theoretically inexperienced. I know you are. I'm really, really sorry, but I need to keep my job. I can't give you this
Sorry.
car.
Tell you
Mr.
what,
Verstappen.
how about if I just buy the car from you?
Right. Can I buy this today?
Oh,
He could have just bought it and then sold it for like this was Max Verstappen's.
Ray could have made money on the whole
GT.
deal.
He could have made it. Oh,
yeah, he probably could have turned around, put it on, on Cars and Bids or bring a trailer or something. Said,
This was what I couldn't rent, so I bought this.
So this AMG was owned and driven by Max Verstappen around Portugal for 3 days.
yeah.
He could have
Probably double the price.
You know how funny that would have been? He would have bought. I bet if he bought that car and then sold that car and donated the money to charity, charity make out like a bandit.
Oh,
right?
hell yeah.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Wouldn't that have been just as he did as a lark? Like, anybody want the car that I had to buy because I couldn't rent it?
He got a nice 5 Series. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Yeah. You could do a lot worse.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But he should have rented an XC60. That's what he should have got.
He should have. He
A
was
diesel
doing it
XC60.
the wrong way. A diesel XC60 was clearly what he should have rented. I mean, duh, Max.
Yeah.
Do they have?
Just
Actually, I'm surprised he didn't just have his girlfriend do the rental, because his girlfriend Kelly Piquet, daughter of three-time world champion Nelson Piquet, she's over 30, so she could have rented it.
she could have
Oh.
rented it. But then he wouldn't be allowed to drive it because you have to put a.
That's true.
You have to pay extra a lot of times to have a secondary driver. But they
Okay.
He still wouldn't have
drive.
allowed. Yeah, she would have been.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
All right.
Yeah, well.
Didn't think about that.
I was trying to.
They got. You know what? They have more room for luggage in the 5 Series. It's a better car for a nice little vacation.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
To be honest.
All right. VinFast has sold a few hundred cars here in the U.S. this year since they launched.
Woo!
And
Go
up until now,
VinFast.
they've done it
Go
all
VinFast.
through their own company-owned stores. So kind of following the model of Tesla and Rivian and Lucid. And I guess you have a VinFast store near you, right, Robbie?
I could throw a rock and hit the VinFast store. No,
that.
it's
Don't
about
throw a rock
like
at
a
it.
mile from
They
my
have enough
house.
troubles.
I didn't know it was there. I was just driving past, every once in a while I'll just drive past the dealerships. They're near my house just to see how they're doing. Just to see what their inventory looks like. Like the one up the street from my house at the time had a bunch of Ioniq 5s. I'm like, well, that explains why there's an Ioniq 5 every 5 feet over where I live. And then I'm like, what is this? Wait, is that a VinFast dealership? There's a VinFast dealership near my house.
You should pop in there and take one for a test drive and let us know.
No, I'm good. I've test drove one. I think I'm good
Okay.
until they fix them.
Well, I don't know if they've fixed them yet or not. I'm guessing probably not. But VinFast is expanding their reach, trying to expand their reach a little bit, and they've launched their first partnership with a franchised car dealer here in the U.S. With Leith Automotive Group in North Carolina, and so they're going to, so they're kind of going both ways, doing some franchise dealers and some company-owned stores, where they're allowed, they're also that's Leith is based in North Carolina, where VinFast is also building a $4 billion assembly plant.
Mhm.
That's supposed to start production in 2026. We'll see. But it'll be interesting to see if, how many other dealers sign up to sell VinFasts over the next year or so. I guess VinFast is going to be at CES in a couple of weeks, and they're supposed to show off, I think, a pickup truck and a new small SUV, a VF3, I think it is. They're supposed to reveal that, so we'll see how that works out for them.
I don't want anyone to fail, but I would love to drive whatever is next. Like, the VF8.
I'm gonna keep saying that they gave us the cars, and then they immediately told us that today better versions of the cars are landing in San Francisco, and we were down in San Diego, and I'm like, why are you having us drive these?
Yeah.
This makes zero sense that you're having us drive the bad version of this car.
Strange to.
And then I think they were surprised that like all the reviews are like every car was a little bit different. Every car had a one problem, but that was different from all the other cars.
That was the weird thing. And I literally got into a fight with journalists. Like there was one person who was like, mine was perfect. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, have you talked to anybody else? Because we all had a different problem. No, you're all wrong. I'm like, listen to me. You got the one. You got the one that works.
I mean, good for
I mean, if
you.
you build enough
Because-
of them, eventually you're going to get one just.
of not working, you know?
Yeah, you can't I can't write a review based on your experience in your
Right,
car
mine was.
when everyone else, and then and then you're like, is your car doing this? Or like, no, but my car's doing this. You're like,
That was the
Okay.
weirdest thing. Like,
because
you
typically
literally
you're
get-
like, oh, my car's doing this thing, and you'll ask another journalist, and they're like,
Right.
oh yeah, it's doing it, or no one else is having that problem. And then you go to the PR person or the engineer, you go, are these pre-production cars? And they're like, oh yeah, they're
Right.
pre-production. So there's a little bit of thing, like the first time we drove the A class, those little Mercedes, it turns out like those were the first vehicles ever built at a factory in Mexico. So like one of the little latches to roll the windows up and down was installed backwards or upside down, so it was like
I'm
wrong.
Sorry, that's really funny.
And then, but Mercedes was very forthcoming. They're like, "Hey, these were the first ones built at this factory.
Okay,
There's going to be
but-
some weird little things." They're like, "Oh, okay, all right." So now But when you drive the car, overall the car is fine. But there's just like little weird little things that you
Little quirky
find.
bits.
But when you're like, "Oh no, these are great," but by the way, we made better ones, and they're over there. They're
I just couldn't get
350
past
miles
that
north
we
of here.
all- That we all had literally a different problem. Like we said, that was the weirdest thing. I've never in all of my driving experience where I've had people either have the same problem or not have the same problem I've had on a test. But to be like, no, I had this problem. Oh, that's weird. You had that. How about you? Oh, no, I didn't have either of those. I had a third problem. It was like, it was like the variety of problems was just weird. It was weird to the point that it was
Yeah.
laughable. And you're like, you felt a little punked. Like, what are you guys doing to us?
Then you get in the cars that like people who'd driven the day before, and I don't think that they realize that we all talk to each other. And so the person who was in the car the day before had a certain problem. When I was in that car, it didn't have that problem anymore. So then you're like, okay, so are they fixing these cars at night?
Right, like what's
And then there's
happening
another-
in the
Reflashing them
meantime,
every
in
night.
between yeah, 'cause I
Yeah,
had
it
someone
was-
look for because there's a number on all the cars. I don't know if people know this. Like when they assign us the cars, there's normally like a sticker or something on there numbered whatever 1 to 15, and like
And
Robbie
when
has
you
car
drive out,
5,
they check you out on the list
Right.
and
Yeah.
know
So
who's
you
driving
really
which
know
car.
which one of the cars you drove. So if like I had problems with a car and Sam was driving the next day, he could say, "What car did you drive?" I drove car 5. Can I have car 5? So he can literally drive the exact same car, even though we aren't there at the same time to see. So in theoretically, it should drive the same. So when like car 5 does one thing today and another thing tomorrow, you're like, what's happening? And I had somebody who drove the exact same car I did, had a different group of problems.
Yeah,
It was weird. I don't hate
was a very
VinFast.
weird-
I'm just perplexed by what's
Yeah, we
happening
don't-
with VinFast. I don't hate. I really don't hate them. I want
so
them
we
to
haven't
win.
driven the new cars that they told us about.
I know. I want to drive a new one. I want to drive the
They're at the
new-
thing and they're like, by the way, there's new better cars that are being shipped in right now. They just
I
made it
wanna
into, and you're
drive
like,
the new
well, why are we
better.
driving these ones?
I wanna
Why
drive
didn't you
the
wait a
new
week?
better.
Yeah, he should have rescheduled the program for later
It was
time when.
It was such a weird,
I want to
weird
drive the new better.
event.
What do we have to do to drive the new better, Robbie? Well, you can just
Go up to
down
the
and
street.
drive.
Just go to my
go down the
house.
street
Everyone
and-
come over. We're going over to
We're
the
gonna go
VinFast place.
record live from Robbie's house, and then
Yeah.
we can all go drive the new VinFast.
Well,
I think at the end of the day, I was like, it's 30% there. Or not 30, I'm sorry, it's 80% there. They're just like a bunch of little itty goofy things that guys need to fix. So
Yeah. Come on, VinFast. Come on. Little engine that could, or not engine, little electric vehicle that could.
all right. So apparently in California, if an automated vehicle goes, runs a stop sign or a red light, or goes speeding, or breaks any other law, apparently police in California are not allowed to issue tickets to them. Apparently
Dun,
there's
dun, dun.
a little detail in California traffic laws that the ticket has to be issued to a human driver. Not, I don't think it explicitly says a human driver, but it has to be issued to a driver of the vehicle. And if there's no driver in the vehicle, they can't issue a ticket.
Yeehaw, California. No.
So
Really? So how do they know that they ran it? Because how would you'd have to prove that you weren't actually driving at that moment?
well, if it's
Right?
something, like a Waymo robotaxi, this is what it's referring to.
Oh yeah, okay.
Those are the only ones that are supposed to be able to operate, with a permit. If they have a permit from the state, Those are the only ones that are supposed to be able to operate without somebody sitting in the driver's seat. Anything else, there is supposed to be someone sitting in the driver's seat, and whether they are fully engaged and in control of the situation doesn't matter. They still get the ticket. So if you're in your Tesla and using FSD beta and it runs a stop sign, you get the ticket.
It's you.
But if it's a actual driverless car, then cops can't do anything, unfortunately, which is now that NBC has reported on this. I have a feeling that before too long, hopefully the California legislature will amend that regulation and make it so that they can issue tickets, if AVs break the law.
Well, they've been getting a lot of pressure after they were sort of rolled over for Cruise and Waymo for a lot of these regulatory things, and then Cruise did what Cruise did. So I think I think California's like, oh, we better yeah. We better fix these things now. Like, yeah, you should have fixed them before.
Yeah, this would have been good to do earlier than now.
Yep. Yeah. Dodge Challenger. The last V8 powered Challenger rolled off the line on Friday, 2 days ago, as we're recording this.
Sadness.
And that is the end of the line for the Hemi V8. More V8s.
Saddened.
Yep. So no more Hellcats. It was a Demon 170.
Did you
a black Demon 170.
You know what? I know you have a Dodge, but
no, my Dodge is like a weedy little Charger. No, I do not have a Hellcat or anything.
Oh, it's just every time I got in one, I'm just like, it's just a brick that goes fast in a straight line.
I like my brick that goes fast in a straight line.
It's boring.
You know what it was? You know what was great? I'll tell you why I loved that brick that goes in a straight line, Robbie. Because the brick that goes in a straight line is a sedan that had lots of power, was still fun in a straight line, was aggressive when you got on the highway, and you could still fit your whole family in that sucker. Like I could fit the kids in there and the car seats and all their stuff. It had so much room. It was a great sedan if you wanted room for your family. And
bring back the Magnum. That's what they should have.
And you didn't want to drive a
Magnum.
stupid, just boring sedan. It was fun. It lets you have
Magnum.
both. I love that car.
I want an electric Magnum.
Electric Magnum. Bring back the Magnum, people.
Bring back the V8.
You cowards. Bring back the Magnum.
So I think they sold out of all the V8 and Hellcat Chargers a while ago. Chargers and Challengers.
I think so.
Several months ago, but
yeah, they're all sold. Yeah.
There's no more going to be built. They're now retooling that plant to build electric vehicles, and who knows, maybe there might be some Hurricane 6 cylinders in there too, but at least electric vehicles going forward.
Electric Magnums.
Electric vehicles have the power and they're the instant, when you hit the gas, but the visceral thing of having a V8 is sad that it's
the sound and the vibration.
You can't put that in an electric. You can't. You
just want someone in there with you.
You want the car to actually do the all by itself.
Dodge is going to have the Fratsonic exhaust system.
Oh my god!
Not the same. I want actual V8 working under the hood, making the car rattle slightly, and all of that. I want all of that.
But you could still buy one.
No, but
you can buy a used one.
Not for long.
You could buy a used one.
Oh, they'll be around for a while.
They'll be along for a long. You know why? This is their cash cow. This was how they.
They built them long enough. There's plenty of them around.
I know.
Yeah,
but it's sad that they're not building them anymore. I get that they're still out there. It's just sad that they're not building them anymore. Sad, you stupid boys. It's sad.
I like that. I was like, no. I grew up. My mom had a Charger. That was like the car when I was a little kid that we had.
Oh, the old school Charger, the early 70s Charger.
We had an old school Charger, an early 70s Charger. And so that's what I grew up with.
Was she a car person or she?
Yeah, both my parents. My mom is a car person. My dad knows how to work on cars, but isn't really a car. He works on jets and planes and stuff. But my mom knew how to work on cars. My mom is the one who taught me how to. My dad drives like a Yeah, my dad's not a good driver. My mom though was a good driver. She's not allowed to drive anymore. She has epilepsy. Yeah, no, I drive fast because of my mom, and I know how to work on cars
Go,
because of both
Robbie's
of them.
mom. Woohoo! Okay.
Yeah, that's why it's very weird when people are like, it's such a man's thing, and I'm like, but in my household, everybody's like, my mom's out there helping my dad pull the transmission out of their
That's
their
really
GMC
cool.
truck.
That is super cool.
Which I was just like, oh, that's how it is. And then I went out in the real world, and it turns
You're
out
like,
not
oh
so
wait,
much.
my parents are the anomaly.
My parents aren't an anomaly. I remember my mom taking classes to learn how to work on cars too, even though her dad owned a radiator shop, so she knew how to work on radiators and stuff as a kid.
Your mom was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was but then then you drive that car, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, it goes fast in a straight line. I like corners.
Yeah.
I just like goes fast, even a straight.
Go fast.
I like those cars. I know they go straight line only, but I love them. And they sound like that.
You can still get one. I'm telling you, just go out and get one.
I know, but
If you wait wait 3 years and go out, yeah, but you could still have one. There's no one
I don't
stopping
want them to
you.
go away. I want them to still be there.
Oh, I still want there to.
New pretty
I still want a 1990 Honda Civic hatchback to be sold, but the manual
also
transmission.
not happening. They're still out there. You can still find one, Robbie. Okay, there you go.
I want an Element. I want a CRX. I want
Elements. We had one. We never should have sold that car.
Everyone who sold an Element is like, man, why did we do that?
We had a Honda Element, and we got it at the time. Like they build it as sort of like the outdoorsy
lifestyle
car.
They had an ad where like a bicycle jumped through the middle of the.
They sold it for that, but the girls were really little when we bought that. One was in like a little baby carrier thing. Most brilliant car ever. It beat minivans when it came to having kids because it had the way the tailgate opened up, the split tailgate thing. You could sit on the edge of that and almost like have sort of like a roof thing over your head if you were like feeding a kid, like a baby,
hose
like
it
a rest
out.
stop. And you could hose it out. As a mom of a child who threw up constantly, you could hose out that car.
Oh, that's very important.
It was the best thing ever. You just like, oh, we're getting home. We're good. We're good, honey. It's all cleaned out.
It was also a great car for dogs before Subaru got into dogs.
Yeah.
It's the official dog walker car in the Bay Area. Like all the dog walkers have Honda.
But it was shaped like a toaster and it got about 1 mile per gallon. So we got rid of it when gas prices, I was like, we're spending a mortgage worth of gas payment worth of gas every month, getting Russ to work. I'm like, can't do this anymore. So
I wrote an article about old cars that should be resurrected as EVs, and a bunch of people like we're selling. They're like, I was about to get mad at you, and then I saw that you put the Element in there, so we're cool.
It's like, oh wait, there it is.
If you don't say Honda Element, they didn't care about
bring that back. They'll never bring it back in any incarnation, will they?
I don't think it's so many people really love that car, but I think it's everyone wanted the Brat back, and then Subaru brought the Baja, and then no one bought it. And then it went away, and then after it went away, the same thing that happened with the Element is suddenly the desire for it went up. Like Element prices have gone through the roof.
Are they really pricey?
Yes, they're very pretty because you could get one for like $3,000-$4,000, and now if you're lucky, you can get one for $6,000. And the Baja, like the prices went up on the Baja after Subaru was like, oh, I guess no one wants this, and then like a couple years later, it was like, oh wait,
no, we do. We're just
four-door like little truck with like a little bed. Yeah, I'll take one of those. Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Oh, America.
Speaking of which,
yes,
the VW ID GTI is coming to market. They first showed this concept earlier this year. I saw it in Munich in September at IAA. This is a great sized little car. And this is smaller than the ID3. More smaller than a Golf. Current Golf. It's closer in size to like the Polo. But the current generation Polo is probably a couple of size classes up from what the original first generation Golf GTIs and Rapid GTIs were. And I think this is actually a really good size. It is going into production in 2026, goes on sale early 2027, at least in Europe. Priced somewhere around 30,000 euros. Right now, VW isn't saying anything about U.S. availability.
We're not going to get this. This is just
we probably won't, because I was looking at VW's sales numbers before we started, And
Panda, aren't they?
it's, I think through September, they had sold about 5,000 GTIs in the US this year, which is pretty sad.
Small.
It the GTI is a fantastic little car. Now, granted, the current generation GTI, has, some issues with the infotainment system,
But
too many
it's
touch
so
controls.
fun to drive,
But
though.
yeah, when you're not using that stuff, when you're just driving it, it is a hoot to drive.
Like, it's so much fun to drive. I can forgive those faults, like infotainment, whatever. Just let me drive it.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, like I said, we probably won't get it here. Although,
why do you have to make me so sad by putting this in the show notes, Sam? Couldn't you give me something happy to end the year on?
we're trying to shame VW into bringing it to America.
Well, first of all, we need to shame Americans into buying the Golf, because people will come up to me like, "There's no smaller cars. I can't get hatchbacks. Can't get a manual transmission."
An SUV.
I'm just like, well, the Golf is still there. You can still buy the Golf. Oh, I'm like, "Ugh, what do you want from me? What do you want from the world? When there's a good hatchback with a manual transmission out there in the world that you can buy, and you won't buy it, but you'll complain about how there are no good hatchback manual transmission vehicles.
Are there? And then the number of manual transmission is still going down, right? Have we lost more?
Oh yeah,
we lose more every year, right?
Yeah.
So you're only going to get manual.
The new Accord this year.
They got rid of it. I knew they got
last year. There was a manual. No more manuals.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's only going to be enthusiast vehicles. It's only going to be Golfs and BRZs and
or eventually we'll get some EVs with fake manuals.
Yeah, you get the fake Toyotas.
Yeah. So if
no
you
V8s, no GTI ID, whatever.
If you want the ID GTI, go down to your local Volkswagen dealer. Tell them you want it. Give them a deposit. Prove to them that you really want to buy this thing.
They're going to hold your money for the next.
It's crazy. I'm looking at these.
Go and buy a current GTI. If everybody that says they want one of these things would actually go out and buy one,
then they might be like, hey,
then they would say,
bring this.
hey, there's clearly a market for a small fun hatchback.
It's crazy how the sales of the Golf fell off the cliff. Like in 2017, 68,000, and then 2018, 42,000. 2019, 37,000. 2020, 22,000, and then 2021, 6,500. So it's actually gone up over the past 2 years. It was 6,500 to 78, and now
because
it's like
they stopped selling the regular Golfs, so now they only sell the GTI and the Golf R here.
Yeah, so you can't get the TSI.
Super enthusiast, and it's pricier.
They said that the take rate wasn't high enough on the regular one, and then of course,
so they sold they kept selling the low volume one. Which,
yeah,
we're
only going to sell these ones.
Sad.
Yeah,
it's all sad news, Sam.
Sad news. End of the year.
All right. Well, let's finish it up with an email from Adam Jakowenko, friend of the show, Patreon supporter. We love you, Adam. And last week we talked about the snow socks. I ordered it. I saw the video that Tommy Micah did on TFL. I ordered a set of those and had from Amazon and had them sent to my daughter in Colorado. And Adam wrote in to say that he's got some. He's got some as well. He's got a different brand from the ones that I ordered, but same basic idea. Yeah. Just wanted to share that I've been using a brand called Auto Socks for 5 years now, and for the last 3 years on my Mustang Mach-E, and I highly recommend them. I have no affiliation with them. I live in San Diego, and my Mach-E has all-wheel drive, but stupidly skinny all-season 225 tires, which are fine for daily SoCal driving. But in the winter, when we go up into the mountains of Big Bear, a couple of hours away, roads can get really bad. In the mountains here, you can start to see signs that say that chains are required. But they aren't. But they're such a hassle. I refuse to use them. Auto socks are so easy to put on and take off and store perfectly underneath the trunk storage or in the front of my Mach-E. The only issue I've ever had is convincing the local police doing chain checks that the socks are legit and actually work as good, if not better. And so what you should do for that is just bookmark the TFL video. And if a cop stops you, just make them watch Tommy's video.
Hold on, I know a guy. Click.
On your phone. Anyway, says if I once had to show a cop a YouTube video, there we go, and explain how they work to convince him to let me pass. So they haven't yet quite caught up to the mainstream, but I can literally plow through almost anything with the socks on. They're amazing. I think everyone who drives in bad weather should keep a set in their trunk. Below is a link to the ones I have, and I'll include that in the show notes. Love the show and Happy New Year. And thank you, Adam, for supporting us. And thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the show. We really appreciate you.
Yay. Thanks for giving us money to do this.
Yes, we appreciate all of you. There's a happy note. Thank you, everybody.
Yay. We're going to use that money to buy Volkswagen GTIs and Hellcats. It's the auto socks.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need a few more patrons before we can buy a Hellcat.
We're not quite there yet.
No, not quite.
Well, like one, we'll share it. I don't know how I'm going to get to it. I guess I have to fly out there for my 3 days a month or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll do like the magazines do, where they have an office in California and an office in Detroit. Every month or two, we'll do a cross country drive and we'll swap cars.
We'll swap cars, so we each get a little time in each one.
Yeah.
Right.
So I like that. By the way, that Adam and I was wondering this when we talked about auto socks, like if the police would recognize them, and I know they count, but that he actually did encounter that. Like, wait a minute, what now? Like, as people sort of learn what it is, so he still got, checked for it, but they're like, okay, fine. I feel like I'm bad at convincing police of anything, even when I'm like honestly not doing anything wrong. Like, no, I didn't know that, or the headlight's out. It was not out when I started the car 5 minutes ago. Like, so I feel like I would have a fight with the auto socks, but I might try those. I might get some for my daughter because she doesn't have snow tires.
Yeah, well, yeah, she lives in Milwaukee, right?
She's in Milwaukee, and she just has all seasons on her car.
Yeah, so definitely send her a set of auto socks or snow socks.
I bet she'd put them on. I bet she'd do it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I sent my daughter a note saying, "Hey, you're going to be getting these from Amazon in a couple of days," and she said, "Oh, I don't need those," and I had her watch the video, and she said, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." So when she goes up into the mountains, she'll have those in her CX-30 with all season tires, and she can throw those on there and hopefully be a little safer.
I'm going to try and convince her. I'm going to see if I can convince her to give it a try, because the Milwaukee thing is that they don't plow the roads really well in the city. Like, it takes forever. So all of a sudden you're driving through that muck and the little snowbanks in downtown for like days until they finally get that all cleaned up. So,
and like around here, a lot of times, we'll get snow, when the temperature is right around freezing, so it'll be, icy and mushy, and it can get pretty nasty around here.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have a set of those, I'm sure there's times when, especially if you live, outside of town, live in in a more rural area, where it might take a day or two or three before plows come through or before they salt and sand the roads. I think having those would definitely be helpful.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, that's it for this year.
We'll see you next year.
We'll see you all next year.
We'll talk to you next year. We're not going to see any of these people.
I'll talk to you next year.
We'll talk at you. We'll talk at you next year.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Happy New Year.